Hello, welcome to Undisputed Boxing. It's prediction time. First prediction of 2022, I think. I don't think we've done a prediction, have we yet, so far this year? Chris Eubank Jr. is taking on Liam Williams.
We have done. We have done.
Have we?
We did Ortiz Martin.
Yeah, we didn't put it on a video though. But yeah, thanks for reminding me on that, because I think I'm one up on you on that, because you went for Martin, didn't you?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I went Luis Ortiz, but yeah.
Well, I thought it was game on early though. Thought it was game on.
Yeah, it was. It definitely was. All right, so Chris Eubank Jr.
I don't mind not getting a prediction right. It's when you just look a prick because like you've got nowhere near it. Do you know what I mean? When you've gone for an early stoppage and your guy gets cleaned out himself in one round. Like
Jason Quigley against Demetrius Andrade.
Yeah, that's fun. Yeah. I think he'll cause him trouble.
Yeah, that's a bad one from me. That was probably my worst shout for last year. That was going to take some beating as well, I think.
It's not so bad if you like say, oh, I think he might win on points, and he just loses on points or something. You know what I mean? It's a bit. So the Martin one, even though because he knocked him down twice and had the fight in his hands early on, I don't feel as bad. But yeah, still never good.
Yeah, I'm not going into it again. Yeah, it was a bad one. I can take it on that. I can take it on the chin. All right. So this Saturday, Chris Eubank Jr. Is this his first fight? He only had one fight last year, I believe, which was Marcus Morrison. He's been very inactive. Obviously, switching promoters. Very stop-starty career. Quite frustrating. A bit of a Marmite character. Love him or hate him. He does bring entertainment. How do you see this fight going? First of all,
yeah, I'm going for Eubank on points. I don't think Williams has been stopped before, has he? He might have retired on one of his fights. He might have retired actually.
Yeah, Liam Smith. I think Liam Smith stopped him.
It was a retirement, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But I don't know if because I can't remember it now, but it's on BoxRec because they fought again in the next fight. So I don't know if that suggests there was a clash of heads or something. But they fought again the next fight. So anyway, he's not been chinned, I don't think. And Eubank's not the biggest hitter. So yeah, I think he'll go to points, but I don't think it's an easy night's work for Eubank.
No.
And I think he could cause him some problems. And a little bit depends on Eubank's attitude, because I think when Eubank smells fear, then he's more concentrated and less showboaty, and it's probably when he does his better work. I get the feeling he thinks this is an easy fight, and I think that'll get him into more trouble. And I think he's in a bit of trouble anyway, but I think he'll get himself into more trouble than he needs to because he'll be cocky.
Yeah.
So I think he'll have some rough moments, but I think he'll win enough rounds. But I don't think it'll be like a landslide or anything like that.
No, I agree. I think I'm expecting Liam Williams to start quite fast in this actually, because I think he's got to really kind of impose himself on Eubank, and I think Eubank will take maybe 2 or 3 rounds to warm up. But yeah, I'd expect Eubank to win on points, like a 117, something like that. Yeah, 117, 112, 113, something like that. Yeah, I don't really give Liam Williams that much hope, really. I think every time he has kind of stepped up, it's very clear that he is just not really. I'm not saying that Eubank Jr. is world level. He's on the cusp, but I think he's closer to it than Liam Williams. I think he's quite a way off world level, to be honest. Yeah, that's my, I guess, to sum it up. And I'll probably go for a Eubank Jr. points win. I mean, what do you think? Can you see him winning a world title, Eubank Jr.? Because he's chopped and changed between middleweight and super middleweight. It's a pretty weak division. You know, it's a very kind of. I think it's quite a weak division at the moment, and I think once Canelo relinquishes his belts, if he does, I think there's a lot of opportunity there, and it's very. I think it's quite wide open. But I'm still
what middleweight?
Super middleweight. Well, super middleweight and middleweight, but I think he's made it pretty clear that he can fight in either divisions, hasn't he?
Yeah. Do I think he'll win a world title? I think he can do, because I think he's at the level where there's worse fighters that have won a world title than him. You know what I mean? He's not the biggest puncher, but he has got skills, but he's not elite. But he's good enough to win a world title if the division's not all that. He's just not active enough.
No.
you've got to have a few fights a year to win a world title. You know what I mean? So, this is a good fight as long as he's on his game. It's a sensible fight because Williams did okay against Andrade, but there'll be a bit of a comparison here. He'll want to win in a better fashion, i.e. knockout or wider points, but don't know if that'll happen. But so that's the aim. It's then, will it lead to a world title? It just depends who he comes up against. But he's got enough to win a world title. There's just too many ifs and buts, really. I think they know now that he's been beat enough times, Eubank. I think they know his level. I think he deep down knows his level, and so does his team and his dad and all that. And I think they'll only you'll see a bit of dodging unless they're 100% sure, 95% sure they'll win a fight. They won't go near a world title until they know he's going to win it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think, and therefore, he may dodge a few opportunities, and it may be like a year and a half until we see him in a world title fight, and he might have 2 other fights between them just because he's just circling, ready for the right opponent.
Yeah. He's got to get a move on with it, though. I mean, what is he, 32? Like I say, very, very inactive, chops and changed with trainers, with promoters. I actually thought the PBC link-up was quite interesting because I thought there'd be some good fights from over there. They've got a lot of good middleweights and super middleweights, but didn't really kind of materialize, didn't really kind of take off. I don't know if he's like asking for too much money. Obviously, Sky are kind of waving their checkbooks. It was no real surprise that he ended up with Sky. But yeah, I think he is exciting to watch. I think I think the Roy Jones Jr. Link up is quite interesting. I definitely saw some improvements, but he really needs to get out like 3 times this year. Needs some momentum. George Groves beat him with a one arm pretty much, and it was almost kind of a shot fighter then. Yeah. So yeah, I think the jury's definitely still out for Eubank Jr.'s world title and world level credentials, but should be an interesting fight. Should be a fun fight. I do think it will be interesting. All right, cool. Well,
the other thing just about a world title shot is he's not someone's going to pick for a voluntary in any time soon either. You get the feeling I have to work into a mandatory. I mean, he's not a walkover. I know we don't think he's the elite, but he's a risk for most fighters to some degree.
Yeah.
And I still question how much money he brings to the party.
Yeah.
At the top level, do you know what I mean? Like, would a Charlo entertain him? Would he entertain a Charlo? Would Charlo look at him and go, because Charlo could fight him at 2 weights, I suppose. But would Charlo look at him and go, could do without that speed? And I could either get an easier fight for the same money or a bigger fight for way more money. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Or less, or slightly riskier fight for way more money. Kind of falls in between that weird. He's a problem, but he may not bring tons and tons of cash.
Yeah.
I know he's not. I know he's got a decent following. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying he couldn't be pay-per-view, but he's not a huge pay-per-view driver because he's just been. He could have been, but he's just been off the radar for too long. And the Eubank name will only get you so far, and he has been beat now at in some of the bigger fights he's been in. So
I think the Matchroom link up was quite interesting, and actually I thought he was on some pretty good momentum with Matchroom. He was on the undercard for AJ. I think he fought Spike O'Sullivan on the AJ
What was that?
Dillian Whyte undercard.
Yeah, it was a great undercard that when I look back.
Yeah, it was. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
And that was
was
good
on it as well.
Yeah. And then did he fight Nick Blackwell after Spike O'Sullivan? Or maybe Nick Blackwell's maybe before Spike O'Sullivan, I forget now. But they were very close together, you know, Matt Trim and Eddie Hearn, they were keeping him active. He had like 3 or 4 like decent fights. He was going through the levels at the domestic scene. And then, you know, he wouldn't have been far away from being a pay-per-view fighter in his own right. And then, you know, what happened. I think he fell out and then jumped ship, moved to PBC.
Yeah, I can't remember what triggered it. I mean, yeah, it felt like he was on a few AJ undercards, getting the momentum to be his own pay-per-view star. Yeah. And, you know, he was probably 1 or 2 fights away from headlining his own show and then going into pay-per-view. And I don't know if it was the Triple G fight?
The Triple G was the fall, yeah, because they've been chasing it, and they got it pretty much agreed in principle. I think it was Tom Loeffler at the time that was managing Triple G, and Tom Loeffler and Eddie Hearn were pretty pally, and they were like, "Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, we're fine. We're up for it. We can beat him. And then it was the whole lost your pen debacle, wasn't it? Eubank had lost his pen, and then that's when Kell Brook stepped in to fight him. And Kell Brook stepping into that fight, he never should have gone into that Golovkin fight, but it was almost kind of a reaction to Amir Khan fighting Canelo, if you remember. They got it on, and then Kell Brook was obviously still chasing Amir Khan. I can't remember who he fought after that. That was it. He went his own way, and then fought Reynold Quinlan for the IBO world title at super middleweight, who was like, nobody knew who he was. And I think that was on Channel 5, if I remember rightly.
Yeah. Anyway,
we digress. All right. Well, pretty straightforward. We're both going the same way on this prediction. Let's do a quick. We'll do a quick review, maybe early next week, and then we could do another prediction vid for the following weekend.
Yeah, Thurman's fighting this weekend. A bit of a combat fight. I don't know much of the opponent.
Barrios.
I know they're charging like $79, I think, for the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Eddie Hearn goes on about it, and I've only really more paid attention recently. There's a lot of pay-per-views in America now of very substandard quality. I mean, isn't this the second one that there's been now? And the first one was Martin.
Yeah, Martin
Ortiz, and then there's just a lot of crap in there.
Yeah, pretty scandalous, but it's a bit. I guess that's the only way they can make it work. But I mean, Thurman, again, another fighter that's been incredibly inactive. I don't think he's fought since Pacquiao, which was like nearly 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So
just on other news, I think you've watched a bit more than I have of Bricktop being smug. I don't know exactly what he's had to say. I saw that he denied, that Tyson didn't want to fight Usyk, but he's going to do that. One thing I'm finding interesting is I can't remember if we touched on this in the last video, but Aram saying that they're gonna do 500,000 pay-per-view buys.
Yeah, I did see that. I struggled to see that, to be honest.
Yeah, and apparently, so he said that, and he said Whyte's a bigger puncher than Wilder. So it's amazing, isn't it? It's typical promoter talks. Forget what I have said before and just listen to this to me now. Because he was saying before, Wilder's the most devastating puncher, and Whyte is not a bigger puncher than Wilder. Let's have that right. He could cause Tyson different problems and as many problems as Wilder did, but not through one punch power. So it's just it's hype, isn't it? Saying that, and I can't for the life of me see 500,000.
No, I'd struggle to see that. I think it does over 1 million in the UK though.
Yeah. Pretty confident.
Has Dillian Whyte accepted it yet, by the way?
Well, I don't know. Apparently, there's a few things now I've seen. There's not been much coming back from him.
Yeah.
And Hearn's gone a bit quiet since the whole thing. So they got a show this weekend. Matchroom got a show because he always does an interview during the show.
No, it was supposed to be Liam Smith versus Jesse Vargas. That's been rescheduled to the 30th of April.
Right.
That
So
was
yeah,
announced actually today.
We're yet to hear. So that's interesting. I mean, I hope there's no kind of problems with it, or maybe they just sat there going, "Let's see the contract first," you know. But from the bits I did see of Bricktop, he was saying that, you know, the contract will go out this week, and we'll be looking to do a press conference next week. Like, I don't know if that's ambitious or trying to turn the screw and put the pressure on.
Maybe.
You know, so right, they've had the contract, and you know, we want a press conference, but they're not there. It's like, hang on a minute, I want to read the contract and
yeah.
And all that. Mm.
Well, we'll see. All right. So yeah, I forgot to say, if you are new to the channel, please hit the like and subscribe. Help us out. We're trying to get to the all important 100 subscribers. And yeah, we'll keep the videos coming. We're trying to do at least 2 or 3 a week. And yeah, we'll see you on the next video.